Alright, we're back on our tranny here. So I'm going to work on the shift forks now. We got the ratchet lid cleaned up the other day. Let's get back to this. The transmission case, we put the sealer right here and it's all set up. So that's good to go. So I'm going to go out and change out our forks now. So we got two new ones here. So these here, you have a low and second gear, and then you got a high gear one. This is 3/4 smaller than the other one, because dogs are smaller. And this has a keyway in here, notch. You gotta make sure you engage that correctly in here when you change these out. The way the space and stuff stack up here matter for your offsets, so you gotta make sure you get them right. So you got two little lock tabs right here that we got to fold over. I usually just hold this in my vise to hold them. So we're gonna do that. You take a chisel to knock the lock down. Use a 3/4 wrench to tighten, unscrew them, which is this. Straightforward. So I'm going to go over here to our vise, right there. Show you what we do. First thing you do is knock the lock tabs away. Take the wrench and loosen them. Alright. So now that one's all loosened up there, so I'm going to swap it out. I'm going to loosen up the other one too while I'm at it. Get both done. No lock tab on that one. Not exactly tight either. Alright, so I go back over here. Alright, we'll go with the high gear one first. That. Take all your locks off, all your spacers. So you take off your fork, and you see where you got the new one goes. See how it's offset on the dog there, so it can either go this way or this way. So make sure you match it up. So this one here is to the right. Now this here has got some kind of a homemade washer on here, so I'm going to get rid of that. This one here is broken. It's broken. So that one's no good. So the thick washer's fine. It's another homemade one, so we'll leave it off. And the lock tab is broken, so we need a new one of those too. So pretty much everything about this one's bad. Alright, so go ahead and put this on there where it belongs. Put our lock on there. We'll swap it out here after we get further along, but we have no space or shims in here now, so we'll see what we have to do and we'll just add shims to this one. Okay, just tighten it up a little bit. Okay, so that one's good enough to use now for the tranny. So we take this one apart and see what we got on this one. Spacer washer. Now this one here has the big side to the bottom. So So same deal, big side of the bottom, put it back on. These washers all look like they're correct. And there's no shim washers on this one either. So I guess this tranny didn't need any shimming. I find that hard to believe. This lock tab still got both ears on it, but I'll probably replace it. It's looking pretty used. So for mock-up, we'll go ahead and keep it on like it is for now. So we have no shim washers right now, either one of these two to play with. Okay, I just initially torqued in. Okay, junk parts here. Junk pile. Okay. So this is our low gear one, so it goes over here on low gear side. Make sure it's nice and free. So high gear one. So you can put it in two directions, put it in like this. Here, or you can flip it over and do it like this, here. So, see how this one here goes toward the outside of the case for the thick part? Do this one the same. See if you're closer to being right. And if you take the dog and move it all the way into high gear, there you go. You got room for the fork to go down past the speedometer drive gear. Pops right in there, see? So that's backwards. Try this direction, see how it works this way. Now you look at how your dogs are. Your rollers, it should be at the same angle if they're correct. Here's our shift fork shaft. It's kind of rusty and uneven, but it looks like it'll fit. Make sure it's nice and free, it is. Shoot it through the hole. Okay, now if everything's right, the angle of these two fingers sticking up should be at the same angle. If they're at different angles, then something's wrong. So make sure they're on the same angle. So these are our rollers here. Here's one of them. Now you want to make sure these are nice and round and smooth and not all chewed up. You can see how this one's all rusty and pitted. So this thing's bad. So that'll make it hard to shift because it doesn't want to roll correctly. Here's the other one. Has the same issue. So we need two new rollers. So I gotta grab me a couple new rollers. So I'll go get those, and I also gotta get the shims and stuff for here, so I'll go find the shims. So we'll be back. Alright, I got the new rollers here. So we're going to shift forks. Like those. A couple new locks here. I'm not going to put in just yet. And then we got the shift fork shims right under here. So we got 7 thou thickness, and then we got 15 thou thickness. So got all those. Alright, so now all we gotta do is figure out our shift fork location. So this is for our alignment. So to do that, you gotta have your lid here, which we already have done. We need our alignment tool. Basically this. So the first thing I do is I make sure it fits on the gearbox. Okay. So then I take it off the gearbox, exactly how it fits on the box. I take it off, I flip it over, and I put it on top of the lid here. That. And the way this works is you take the shaft pin right here, you stick it down the grooves, and it lines up with the inside the drum. So right now the drum is in the wrong spot, so you have to rotate it. So why did that not supposed to work? That's weird. For some reason today it's not working. Wonderful. Pretty gummy. That's weird. Looks like it's got 100-weight lubricant in here. So, my guess is that you probably now have sealer down inside my shift drum there is binding everything up. So I need to take it apart to fix that. Or just work it back and forth a couple times and it'll do it itself. So it works really good one way. It works really bad the other way. Just makes it sound like, looks like there's something out of adjustment there. So something is wrong. So I'm going to take that back apart and work on that. Nice. Okay, so that's not going to affect how this works. So we're going to put the tool up on here. We take our pin, we lay it across the two here. You loosen up the screw there so it can slide around. So you put that in there where it belongs, you hold it in, and then you tighten up your set screw. And that lines it up now with the drum. So you do it on the long part of the drum. You go over here to the other part. So right now we're in the middle of the shifting mechanism. So then you get over to the other side. So you go up in the high gear. And now you line up this one. So you can see right now it's way off. So get in there. Hold it center down. Tighten it up. So that should now slide in there like it's supposed to. And this one doesn't line up because we're in the wrong part of the drum. This one lines up. So now you go ahead and shift it again. Go back over here, double check, make sure that one's lined up. So that goes in there no problem. So that tool's set up. But we do have to work on this again now. So you let it sit over the weekend and things happen. For unknown reasons. Ooh, here's one shim. Must have been dropped on the tranny. One to work with. Okay, now you take your tool, you lay it up on here. Put it down. And then you can see where your shift forks are at, where your dogs are at. So let's go ahead and move that down here a little more, you can see better. So basically, you want to look at the gap between your dogs right here. So you go all the way to one way, you see what your distance is there. So it looks like you got about 40 thou. And you go the other direction, take all the slop out, and then you look at this one, and it looks like you got about 30-ish. So it looks like you can probably put a 7 thou shim to move the fork towards second. Always like having the gap equal or closer to second than low, because you don't power shift in a low gear very often, but you do in a second. So I'll put one shim on there to move that over, and it'll take care of that. Next one you look at is a high gear one over here. It's a little bit harder to see because it's in a dark hole. Over there, especially to move it out of the view of the tranny. So I'm going to move this one over and see what it is. I need light on this one because it's dark. And you do the same thing, you look down in there against the dogs and look at your gaps. Try to get third gear and high gear together so I can see what both are doing. Very good. There's a good spot. Look down in there, move it all the way over this way. See what it's doing. Look on the other side, see what it's doing. See the gap. I'm on the wrong side of the dog, which is a little bit harder to see. Try to do this with one hand, you can't rotate both gears at once. That's not the part of the dog I want to be on. You get two high spots together. There we go. Shove it all the way over. Make sure high gear's over. So we got about 50 thousandths between those two. And look at the same on the other gear here. Rotate it until it's where you can see it. Right there. Shove it all over and take a look at it. Looks like it's about 10 or 15 thou less than the other one. So I'm going to put a 15 thou shim on the high gear side, and I'll put a 7 thou on the low gear side. So you just take this out, pull out your shaft, take the bushes out so you don't lose them. Okay, pull it up, and put a shim under here. I got one shim sitting here, so you can see how big it is. This is the 15 thou shim. This is a 7 thou shim. Double check. Showing 8, close enough. So that's 8. Okay, put this back how it goes, figure out where you want to move to. So we want the fork to go closer toward the bushing, so it has to go this direction. And the problem with that is we are all the way over that way. Can't move it any closer that direction. To do that, you have to take this spacer out, stick it on the other side, and put a whole stack of shims in, whatever thick that spacer is, to make it that thick. It'd be pretty hard to do. So we're going to have to live with it being just off a little bit. It's not exactly how I like it, but to change it, I have to put a whole big stack of shims in there. We'll try tightening up the fork more and see if that makes a difference. Put one back. Now this one you want to move it toward high, so this one we got to put a shim in there, not take it out. So we can definitely do that pretty easy. Take our fork off. Take our 15 thou shim we didn't use. Put that right there. Put the fork back on. Put the new lock on there. And we tighten that up. The other problem is we have a lot of shanks sticking up here because there's no space on this side. So we might be bottoming out on a nut. So the nut might be tight, but it wouldn't be tight on what we need. So I'm going to take a 15 thou shim. A 7 thou shim. Stick them on this side, just as spacers. Let's see if this tightens up correctly now. So just because the nut's tight doesn't mean the fork's tight. If the bottom's out on the thread, it's not tight. Like this one right now is loose. See, the nut's tight, fork is loose. See? So something's missing here. This does not have the thick spacer in there like it's supposed to have. And that's because I didn't put it back, I left it over here. That's why it didn't look right. So you got other stuff on your mind, you forget. Okay, now I can take that off. Take these extra shims off I put in here. Put the spacer on there like you're supposed to have it on there. Now that looks a lot better. See how thick it's sticking up? And see how the nut's undercut for that much? Now it'll tighten down like it's supposed to. Now I could put extra shims over there like you're supposed to have, a couple extra ones laying in there, but it costs money to put extra shims in, so I don't do it unless the customer wants me to add a bunch of crap. Yeah, I'm not going to ask him, so there you go. Okay, that's tightened up like it's supposed to now. You have to work these problems out as you go. Okay, now I can go ahead and tighten this down here now with the transmission holding it. Good torque on that one. A lot of movement on that one. Okay. Get that all back on there. Take our whoop. Don't forget to put your 2 rollers on there. Put your tool back up on here. And now check your parts again. So let's see if we move this one in. Something's going to move. Okay, rotate until all 3 are in one spot. Okay, we look at the gap there. Look at the gap there. It's definitely a little bit closer, but it'll have to work. It's close, so it'll work. Now the problem with this is because we had to grind so much off of this tooth, this gear here, it shoved it further apart, so that's one of the reasons why we're running out of room. It's this gear being made wrong is not helping matters. Okay, that one will work, it's close enough. So now this other gear, move this over here where you might be able to see it a bit better. So we're looking right down through here. Can't move it. Okay, something is a lot different what it was. So you can see the big gap I got right down in here right now. Where am I at? Over here. So I got a huge gap in this side here. There's nothing on the other side. So obviously I put that together wrong. Loosen that up. Take this one out. That spacer is supposed to be on the other side. So put it back together wrong, it looks like. Put the shim back where it belongs. We still got our 15 thou spacer here. Put this together. Try this again. And this time I did it correctly. Okay, that's now tight. Roller on there. Put that on there like it's supposed to. Now we can look in there and see what's going on. That looks a lot better now. Okay, there's a nice spot. Okay, looks like we got about 30 thou clearance there. Move it all over the other side and look on the gap on the other side. Looks like we're about the same kind of gap, maybe. It's hard to see in there. It's hard to get a perspective what you're looking at. You're looking way down right in here. You can probably actually see that better than I can with a blown up. Right there is where you're looking at. It's right through that line there. It's really hard to see in there. Be over where I'm at, so I get a better idea what I'm looking at. Looks like I got about maybe about 40 thou. Versus this side over here. About 30 or so. So if you can't really tell what it is, you get feeler gauges and check it. Feeler gauges. So I think we got about 30 or so in there. So you grab a 17 and 18, put them together, and stuff them down in there, see what you get. Shove it all the way over. So obviously more than that. Try something different. So we still got clearance. That's 23 and 24. So it's 47 thousandths. Not enough yet. So now we'll take the 3 feeler gauges and put them together. And now we got some drag. Not too much, just a little bit. Okay, so now we go the other direction of the fork. See where it's going to contact that. Rotate the gear to where it lines up with what you're trying to check. Right there lines up. So take the same 3, stuff them in there. Shove the dog over. And we have clearance. Okay, so what do we have here? Looks like we had about 48 thousandths. Should have that with my double. Try 3 more. And have clearance. We got drag this time. Noticeable drag. We're at 70 right now, so drop off to high, go to the next 3 down. So you just take the feeler gauge, you drop 1 off one side and bring up on the other side to get 3 that are in line with each other. That'll give you about a 4th thou change probably. Okay, stick it down in there, shove the fork over. And we have drag on that. Not a lot of drag, but a little bit. Okay, so we're at 65 thousandths. I'll go check the other one. Let's see. High and high is right there. Okay, we're not hitting on that one. That's good, that means we're closer. So we're going to go up one size, take away the lower one. Try it again. Okay, now we got drag. Okay, so we had 65 on the other one, and this one here, we have 57. So that means if you split the difference between the two numbers, you get 8 thou, your 4 thou off the center. The next shim is 7, so you're going to make it closer to third or closer to fourth. I like being closer to fourth, so I'm going to stay with the current one we have in there. So that's how you check it if you can't really see very well. I couldn't see very well, but obviously got close enough, I got it. But, so that's how you get your dog set up. So that one's done there. This one here we can't do much about because we're too much on the one side. We're probably a good 5 or 7 thou off of that one at least. Close enough. It'll work. So that's how you get those figured out. Now I'll go ahead and make sure these are good and tight. And it's good and tight. So you knock that down with a punch and a hammer, or with a pair of vice grips. Or not vice grips, channel locks. So the channel locks. Probably easier to do this out of the bike than in it. So take it out. Now you got better access to doing your lock tabs. So there's one. Now this one you don't have to do more than one, but sometimes this one it touches on the bottom of the shifter arm. So if you're below this surface here, you're all right. If you're sticking above like I am, knock it down a little bit. Let me fold it over. So I folded it over a little bit, so I'm below the surface here where the drum would hit on it. So we're fine. Doesn't hurt to make sure. Okay, the other one. So here. Fork all the way across. Okay, make sure this is good and tight before I put the tab down. So it's tight. So we're going to fold these two tabs here down. So looks like we only do this one's closer to folding down even, and this one sticks up. So once again, we'll take them both down. So there you go. So that one's down to clear here, and this one here is one that should be tight on the hex side. So and they're tight pretty well. So you definitely want to torque the piss out of them. You want to know what the torque is on that? Tight. Probably 30 foot-pounds. At least 25. Tighten the damn thing down. Okay, now I like to go here and just make sure everything is still working correctly. So there's low gear. Spins freely. There's second gear. Still spins freely. Turn neutral. Third gear goes that way. Spins freely. And fourth gear is over here. Spins freely. All of this is working good. The next thing is I want to double check the torque on my nuts over here. So I'll go ahead and put 2 gears at once. There. Oh, that one popped out. There. So now the transmission is jammed in gears. Now you torque your nuts, we won't have to worry about it moving. Pretty sure I did this already, but it doesn't hurt to double check. So let's take our big socket here. Take our big zip gun. Make sure it's tight. Appears to be tight. So you get the big one, and then we'll go a small one. And we'll check the counter shaft nut. If you put it with the ridings where you can see it, you can tell if it moves or not. It's tight. So they were both tight. So on tight torquing was the main shaft nut here and the counter shaft nut over here. Now these both have lock tabs on it, so fold the lock tabs over. This one we're in between two, so this one's the closest one, so I'll do the top one over. This one over here, you can see I folded them up beforehand so I can get access to them. if you wedge it against the bearing, the gold part in here, you can actually shove the shield into the bearing roller and it won't work right. So that's why I pre-bent the tab up a little bit. So you just come in here with your screwdriver like this and just fold it up a little bit. Then you take it and you tighten it by twisting, and that will shove it all the way further over. So I'm just twisting my screwdriver up here. So I'm just tightening this from my hand right here. And that tightens the tab up. So I get the tabs right here. So I just tighten up by doing that. So now that tab's all the way up, and these two here are above the bearing, so they're not going to rub on the bearing when this rotates. See how the tabs rotate at a different speed than the bearing? So if there's dragging on that, it tears up the bearing, and you have some problems. So this one over here, we just bend this one up a little bit more here. Try to anyway. And then you do this on the bench. And my chisel go. Take my chisel, get to where I can see it, stick it in here. And instead of pushing straight down on it like this, I'm going to hit it sideways to try to bend the tab over. There you go. So once you see it starting to move a little bit down in here, then you come into your channel locks, or you can come in there with a punch like this, a drift punch, and knock it down. It's at a pretty bad angle, so it's hard to get in with this. With this punch here, where the damn camera's at. So use the channel locks, which I just had out someplace. I'm looking right at them, I guess. I don't see them. Put them back in my tool bucket. Okay, then you go over here and just go like that. Bend it down. Okay, now two tabs on it. Now when I bent that, I put a little bit of a burr right here on my case. I kind of beat on the side of it when I was supposed to. So I take a file and just knock it off. You hear the burr is gone. It's a fine file, so it doesn't do much damage. Also, the chip location is going straight down onto my bench, so nothing really goes inside the case. Just wipe it just to make sure with your thumb, and wipe off your bench to make sure you got no chips in your work area. Okay, that's all cleaned up now. There's our rollers. Okay, let's get this where you can kind of see where we're at a little bit. There we go. Blown up too much. Your impact out of the way. Move your tools out of the way, they're not in the way. Okay, now I wound up using no shims. We have no shims on this one, and we had the one shim that I found on this one, so didn't have to buy any shims. Save the customer money. Okay, now this here shift fork shaft, we got to put goop on the O-ring over here. And then we have to have a lock screw that goes over here. The shaft has a little notch in it right here. Right there. And that has to go with over here. You turn it and that lines up with a hole right here where the screw goes in there. Where's our screw at? I had to land on the bench here. Don't see. There it is. So this is our little screw. Oop, there we go. Trying to figure out where the camera's at. So this little notch here is what goes into the shift fork shaft hole here, which is right here. So it sits in there like that and locks it so it can't come out. So that little stuff all has to be lined up. And you want to refrain from putting any sealer on the part the shaft goes inside the case, obviously, because the shift fork won't work. Okay, so I line it up like that. And just put some sealer on this O-ring out here, seal it. So I'm using my 3-bond sealer. I do not like silicone that much because it doesn't go away. So this stuff will break up, pulverize, and go away and not cause damage. Silicone does not break up. It just mashes around and causes problems. Alright, so I got a little bit on that. Cover that up for now. Wipe this off in a dirty rag you keep laying around. Okay, you make sure the slot is straight up and down. And just shove it on in there. Squishes in there pretty good. And take a little screw, put it in a hole. A small screwdriver. Now this has been cut down and narrowed so that it'll fit inside the 1/4-inch hole. Because this goes below the surface, and if you don't go inside the hole, you screw up the threads, which is not good. So you notice how the shaft kind of moved a little bit as I tightened it. That's tight. Okay, the shaft actually moved out a little bit. Okay, make sure all this is good and free. It is. Get those off before I lose them. Okay, now I like to take the case, just like I did on the counter shaft, I flip it up, and I put sealer on the outside here, and I'll let it kind of set up. Usually I just let this stuff sit up overnight or for an hour or so at least. Now you want to make sure you push the sealer down between the shaft and the hole, but not add bubbles. And you want to make sure the whole shaft is completely covered in the case next to it. That way you got 100% seal. If you have any kind of an air gap, the oil can leak past your sealer. So let it sit like that. And excess sealer right there. There we go. Now I usually just let that kind of sit like that, and they can't run away or cause any damage. What is my lid? I lost my lid. Wonderful. Put it someplace. Alright, well, we'll fight that down here in a minute. Get that out of my way. Oh, there it is. Right in front of me. I wonder I couldn't find it. Nobody left a comment saying where it was either. I'll probably get one or two. Okay, so that part of that is done. Now to keep from losing the rollers here, you want to put a little grease on them. Somebody asked what kind of grease I was using. It's Silkaline Pro Grade race grease. When I use this up, I'll be switching over to Trabodyne grease. It costs 3 times the price of this stuff. This stuff's 20-something bucks a tub. The other one's 60-something bucks a container. Now you have to decide if it's 3 times better. The way I look at it, as low as grease I use on these applications, I want the best stuff I can get so I get the most protection. I don't really care too much about the price of it within reason. Now they have some $360 tube stuff. I'm not using that, so we'll stay with the cheaper stuff, the $60 tube stuff. So it'll be that low grade stuff. The difference is the amount of the good stuff they put in the grease. Okay, so now those rollers are all lubed up on there, and we're good to go on that. So we'll let this sit up here for a little bit, and we'll do that. Okay, I'm going to go probably look at the ratchet lid, see what's wrong with that next here, and let this kind of set up for a while. So we'll be back.